all of you. We really appreciate you finding time to join our webinar today. We've been looking forward to this. Of course, the webinar is From Innovation to Restoration. We are building the Kenya's youth-led restoration. And I'm super excited to have all of you join today. It's an exciting conversation. I'm glad you could make it. My name is Eliud Luther. I am an ecosystem connector and a youth innovation champion, and the co-founder at Innobid, which is a startup leveraging emerging technologies, including AI, to help young entrepreneurs access opportunities that are presented by global commerce and financial systems. But of course, even before I get into everything else, probably I need to tell you why this webinar is very special to us, and it's just not like any other webinar, I would say. And this is because I think, just to give it a bit of context, so we know that Kenya's land is actually under pressure, and just like its young people. And we've been seeing this happen a lot in different corners of the country. But we are seeing an opportunity where these two can meet, where land and the young people can meet. And we think through this meeting, actually something amazing can emerge, where, restoring this degraded land isn't just good for the planet, but also a smart way to build businesses and hopefully create employment for the millions of young people that are struggling to make a livelihood in the country. We also know that Kenya is already witnessing the rise of land-linked ventures, from regenerative agriculture to circular waste innovations, and some of them will be showcased in the webinar today, so you can't wait. You of course can't wait to see. I personally can't wait to hear the stories of such innovations. But of course, then these solutions often grow in isolation, and probably one of the main reasons why we thought of bringing us together is for us to, first of all, witness and of course connect some of these innovations to ecosystem enablers. And the hope is that we're able to unlock the full potential of this emerging restoration economy. But of course, even before we get there, of course, we have to ask ourselves a few questions like, what systems, what investments, what partnerships are needed to scale these innovations? But then also beyond that, how do we ensure that the youth are actually at the center of this? And so this webinar, of course, bringing together, like I said, innovators. We will get to hear from some of them, ecosystem enablers, funders, and of course, connectors, to just reflect and especially looking at where are we now, what's working, where are the gaps, and how can we build alignment moving forward. And of course, we are super excited to be co-hosting this webinar with the Riara University. Of course, both the business school and the other schools in the institution. And of course, we know that Riara University is super committed to nurturing innovation. And of course, this then emphasizes the critical role of academic institutions like Riara University to build this talent pipeline that we know that will be needed to grow and sustain this restoration economy. So thank you for being here, and that sets the context. Of course, you'll get to hear more about why this is important as we go along. But even before I get into introducing our panelists for today, maybe let me introduce to you the audience we have today. I feel like that's also critical. It's definitely you, the audience, you're the most critical part of the session today. And of course, we'll also be going to hear from you. But before we hear from you, I want to let all of you know that actually our audience is spanning across diverse cross-section of sectors. And actually we are having, from the registrations we saw, we are having students, we are having entrepreneurs, we have researchers, of course we have agriculture and agronomy experts, we have environmentalists, and even we have development practitioners. So it's really pretty much a very diverse audience. And of course, while the majority of these participants are actually based in Kenya, we are also thrilled to welcome some international registrants. So we saw guys registering from Cameroon, Uganda, Zambia, Niger, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, India, Nepal, France, and up to Mexico as well. So this, of course, is a constant reminder that Kenya's restoration leadership is being watched across the world. And of course, we can't wait to see what more is to come thanks to conversations like this. Now, having given that context, and of course also with this amazing audience that we have, I would like now to introduce our panelists. And of course, at this point, our panelists will just say hello, probably just so that we can know that we can hear you and that you're there. Of course, our very first panelist is, I think I would call her a catalytic support actor. She comes from the G20 Global Land Initiative, Fabiola Nava, who is the youth engagement consultant. Hi, Fabiola, are you there?
I'm here, Eliud. Very excited. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning to you too. Thank you so much for being here. Then, of course, our second panelist is actually one who is building what I would say a business that works in this space that we are talking about, who is a youth ecopreneur. And of course, she's a YECO alumni. And of course, Fabiola will mention a bit about what YECO is all about. And of course, also the CEO and co-founder of Chemolex. She's called Martina Sikawa. Martina, how are you?
Hi, Eliud. Hi, everyone.
Hi, good to see you and to hear from you. I know we've met in a couple of sessions before. I'm glad you could make it. And then, of course, we also have from the academic institution side, and of course, we've just emphasized, and we will keep emphasizing the key role of financial or academic institutions. Sorry, I'm from a background of finance. I keep saying financial institutions, but it's academic institutions in this conversation. And of course, we have from Riara University, Ms. Rehema Mugendi Kiarie. Ms. Rehema, are you there? Okay, I'm not sure if Ms. Rehema has
Yes,
joined.
I'm there. Sorry, I was muted. Eliud, good morning, everyone.
Okay. Good morning to
Yes,
you.
I'm here and I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're glad to, super excited to have you. And of course, then we also have on the support side, what I would call accelerators and business support organizations. And of course, we are super privileged to have Rogers Wekesa from the Kenya Climate Innovation Center. Rogers, how is your morning?
Great, fantastic, Eliud. Thank you. I'm looking forward to exciting engagements during this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are super excited to have you as well. And of course, last but not least, we also have what we are calling an ecosystem builder. Of course, even the other institutions that I talked about, that the other panelists are coming from, are also definitely contributing to this. But of course, we have a critical ecosystem builder in the name of ASEC. And of course, we are privileged to have the CEO, Madam Mercy Kimalat, joining us. Madam Mercy, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much. So as you can see, we have a fully packed panelist, but panel actually, and of course a group of panelists, and of course also a very exciting audience that is ready to listen and engage with us. And of course, I welcome you to drop any comments, questions, or feedback that you may have on the chat platform. There is definitely someone monitoring on that side, and we'll have a session where we can respond to some of your comments and questions as we go along. But for now, I'll first of all take probably the first half of this webinar to actually listen to the panelists. And of course, kicking us off with Fabiola. So Fabiola, I know we've been very curious about this conversation from this side of the world in Kenya around restoration. And I think even we were curious enough to ask some of the registrants around, what do they think restoration is all about, land restoration, what is it all about? And of course, we had a sort of a cross-cutting thematic mentions. Of course, we had people saying it's about reviving degraded land and ecosystems. We also had themes around improving soil health, biodiversity, and resilience. We also had others talk about connecting restoration with livelihoods and job creation. But of course, also we had a mention of climate adaptation and sustainability. And of course, others also thought this is about restoring land as a legacy for future generations. But maybe in your opinion, or probably also in your experience, first of all, please start us by just explaining to us what land restoration is. And of course, also, do you think this is an investable sector? Because I think many people are keen to see, is it worth investing in? And of course, also from the G20 Global Land Initiative side, like how is the G20 Global Land Initiative actually building systems to support this ecosystem at scale? Fabiola, to you.
Thank you, Elliot. Well, many questions, and I hope to be able to respond most of them within these minutes. Of course, the conversation is more deep than the time that we have in this webinar, but we are trying to give, like a canvas of what is the work to be done on the restoration economy. Just, if I may, Elliot, I just would like to start with a quick word about who we are for those ones that is the first time that are listening or hearing about the G20 Global Land Initiative. We were launched by the G20 leaders back in 2020 with the ambition of reducing land restoration by 50% by 2040. So it's super ambitious. We work and operate under the umbrella of the UNCCD. And in this aspect, we work with different stakeholders towards achieving this goal. And particularly my role and the team that I'm part of towards this effort is focusing on supporting youth in entrepreneurship, because we believe that young people are not just the beneficiaries of the restoration, but the ones who are driving it forward. We have different type of activities. We have programs, as you mentioned, the GECO program, which is our biggest at a global stage. But this year we also started national engagements, and one of those was kicked off on July of this year. And since then, we have been engaging closely with young innovators in Kenya who are already proving that the restoration land is not just an environmental duty, but it's also a business opportunity. And they have seen with their own eyes how healing land creates impact for themselves, for the families, for the community, and of course, the planet. And perhaps you might ask, okay, why youth in entrepreneurship and why to support them? And we do it because we are convinced, not just by hope, but by evidence, that what we call restoration economy, it is real and is growing. And in fact, globally, the restoration economy is projected to expand to over 70 billion US dollars by 2030, which is translate to billions of emerging opportunities. And this is very important, or sometimes we might hear more about climate change, as you said. But if we talk about land, why is so important? Why are we focusing on land? Why there is an initiative only based on this? And just to give you a very brief answer for the sake of the time, is the fact that land is the foundation of everything. We depend our work, our food, we depend fully on it. And as you well said, well, in the introduction, Elliot, is that the fact that we need to acknowledge that Kenyan land is under pressure, because over 30% of the country land is degraded, and the annual cost of this is estimated to be 1.5 billion US dollars. And this is, as I said, like, this is yearly. So this is yearly losses in productivity and ecosystem services, which means that this is food that is not being produced or jobs that are not being created. And at the same time, as we also mentioned, and we know, Kenya faces a high youth unemployment, and the young people are searching for pathways to meaningful work. So if we put these two realities together, then the case becomes very clear that the restoration is not only an environmental necessity, but it's an economic opportunity. And to answer also one of your questions, something that we want to be very clear about it is what we mean when we talk about, or when we speak about working in restoration economy. This is important to let you know that it doesn't mean that you must own land, because we know that also land ownership in Kenya carries its own history and their own challenges. So of course, the logic tells you that while if you are working directly in land, then you are like contributing or like helping land, certainly, yes, that is a pathway, but it's far from being the only one. And in fact, most of the promising ventures that are land linked are not land owned. And you're about to hear in some minutes one of the greatest examples, but to name a few others, startups that we have engaged are also developing affordable irrigation systems or precision tools that are helping farmers to adopt sustainable practices. Also, we have tech innovators who are using drones to monitor deforestation or checking also about the soil health. We have the enterprises who are producing biofertilizers on organic inputs that are improving the soil fertility. Or also businesses restoring mangroves or wetlands or riverbanks to reduce the flooding and improve also the water quality. So all these businesses are rooted in land, even if they are not directly farmed. So that's why for us, we believe that entrepreneurship is so critical in the restoration agenda, because too often restoration has been just framed as a one-off activity or a tree planting photo, if I may say, a one-day campaign. But what we are here to present to you is that restoration is not a charity, but it's an economy, and it's a very serious one. And in fact, that's the difference that we want to emphasize today. The restoration through entrepreneurship is about building systems that last. It's sustainable. It's about creating ventures that are investable, that are scalable, and that are capable of providing livelihood for many people while healing the land that we all depend on. And the reason that we are launching we launched the national engagement in Kenya is because we believe that it's ready, just by the fact that Kenya is one of the most vibrant startup hubs in Africa, and that we have mapped 200 plus startups already working on land-linked sectors. So what they need now is visibility, they need the support, the connection to a wider system. And this is what the G20 Global Land Initiative wants to help to provide, to walk alongside them all the way, giving them global exposure, and also support them in the exposure and giving them the tools that are needed for them to give the next step. So as we begin today the conversation, I would like just to leave you with the thought of perhaps the land in Kenya is often described as a challenge, but land is also Kenya's biggest untapped market. And on behalf of the G20 Global Land Initiative, we are ready and we are here already supporting Kenyan ecopreneurs in the journey of restoring the land. And we are also working hand in hand with the key actors in the startup ecosystems, many of whom are here in this room. And that's the reason of the excitement of this conversation, which for us is only the beginning of all the work that we can do all together towards the land restoration economy in Kenya. And I hope I have answered all your questions, Elliot. So back to you.
For sure. Thank you. That was very exhaustive. Thank you so much, Fabiola. Clearly, there is so much opportunity in land restoration. And of course, the benefits definitely are countless, from food security to job creation. Really exciting to hear, all that lies in this sector that clearly is unexplored and so much opportunities. But of course, as we talk about this sector being less explored, there is actually a couple of young people that are already building some exciting enterprises in this space. And of course, at this point, I would like to bring into the conversation Martina. I know, Martina, I've been watching your journey for a while now. You've been building an exciting enterprise, of course, in the name of Chemolex. Please tell us, first of all, what is Chemolex all about, and how does a land-linked startup like yours emerge, adapt, and grow?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak at this webinar. My name is Martina Sikawa. I am one of the co-founders of Chemolex. which basically is a startup thriving in the land restoration ecosystem, and we specialize in wetland restoration. So I'm going to show you something before I start sharing my slides. I hope you can see it.
Yes, I think we
yeah.
can.
Yes. So this is actually a Capro paving block. And could you believe or imagine that it was made out of recycled plastic waste? Well, it actually was. So I personally grew up in one of the peri-urban areas in Kenya, and that shaped my experiences in that the polluted rivers, the image of the polluted rivers as I grew up never really left my side. So as I grew up, this actually shaped me. And together with some of my friends, it was the genesis, the beginning of a beautiful journey of forming Chemolex. So first of all, I'm going to talk about how we make it, and then now I'll answer your question. So the short of this is that we take recycled plastic from all over our plastic capture device. You can start sharing the slide. Slide 1, please. Yes. So the first picture is a plastic capture device that we usually have installed downstream on various tributaries of River Nairobi and River Athi, as well as different waste collection hubs. So after we've picked the waste from this, it's sorted and recycled to produce the paving blocks and the fencing poles, as you can see on these two pictures. You can go to the next slide. We all know that, of course, the river carries everything. It just does not carry plastic waste, but plastic is the biggest menace. Plastic is that does not decompose. Every single piece of plastic that has ever been made from the beginning of time still exists in some form today, even if it was recycled. So that was what we specialized in. The non-plastic waste is also, we utilize it in something called the community cooker, which is basically a sort of giant incinerator that harnesses this fire energy and converts it into clean energy to give the women with speakers an edge over their male, not over, but, you know, equalizing, yeah, to give them a chance to also tap into this economy and be able to thrive. So our impact, not only in the environmental side, we've been able to recycle 1,600 metric tons. In 2024, we've been able to collect 1,600 metric tons and recycled 85% of these plastic in the last year. Our impact in the youth is that we've been able to help and empower 1,000 women and 400 youths, established 2 community cookers, and even rehabilitated 6 illegal dumping sites in different informal settlements in Nairobi. This picture that you can see over here on top is something called hydroponics farming, and it's actually forms also part of the background of the webinar. Whereby now the youth are also able to practice regenerative agriculture to be able to help them gain economic empowerment from these different ventures as linked to the land restoration economy. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so Eliud, you asked a very interesting question on how a startup in the land restoration economy can be able to adapt and thrive. So first of all, there are different skill sets that you need to master as a founder, even as an entrepreneur in your journey, especially in the land restoration ecosystem. Number one is to start imperfectly. Just start. You don't really need, don't overthink it. Don't get caught up in the analysis paralysis part. And I'll give you an example of what we did at Chemolex. The first version of our brick was quite brittle. It wasn't as strong, only because it was purely made of plastic. But we went back to the drawing board after, of course, getting a lot of customer feedback. And we found that this it was actually going through a lot of weathering processes, and it wasn't really conducive as it was causing macroplastic pollution. So with a lot of research, we developed a second version and a third version using different filler materials. What is our filler material? Maybe you're curious to know. It is actually glass. So aside from just utilizing plastic waste from the different rivers, from the environment, from the waste, we also utilize glass. It doesn't really have to be upcycled in a way. We also utilize actually the worst of the worst kind. For the plastic, we use the low density polyethylene. And even for the glass, we use that which cannot be upcycled to produce something probably prettier or something that can be sold again. So this actually removes the pressure of our land and utilizes that which was to be considered waste. That creates an end-to-end circular system whereby we utilize everything in the ecosystem. Number two, be teachable, ready to learn and adapt. After being recyclers for very many years and working in the river, we realized that the plastic is really not going to go anywhere. Even if in Kenya we have like laws that have been passed that dictate that we should not be throwing plastic, we should not actually be using the single-use plastic, but somehow it's still there with us. We still find ourselves using it. We still find it in the rivers. So what did we come up with? We came up with a different product line whereby we are actually fabricating something that is supposed to replace the single-use plastic, synthesized from water hyacinth. So what is this? We are adapting to the current market trends. We all know that the bioplastic thing is very big in Europe and Asia, but now in Africa, we want to be one of the first people who actually embrace biodegradable alternatives. So adaptability and the willingness to learn and change is a key thing that ensures your growth and your thriving in the land restoration ecosystem and as a person in general. On to my third and last point, maybe not last, but third one, is actually leveraging on partnerships. We always say that if you want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go further, you go with people. Find people who will hold your hand in this journey. As you can see in my last slide, we have the different partners who actually believed in us as one of the first people and were able to invest in us and get our project up and running. The YECO community and the G20 Global Land Initiative are also these people who've been with me, quite frankly, in the last maybe year or year and a half. And the kind of exposure, the kind of mentorship, the kind of guidance that they have accorded me as a youth and ecopreneur is actually something that I don't really know whether I would be where I am right now if I had not met these people. So leverage on the partnerships and don't overthink this. You only need one opportunity. You only need one person to change the life. So look for the opportunities. If you feel like you're even 80% qualified for something, don't wait for yourself to be 100% qualified. Even 60%, 80%, go for that opportunity. It's not going to find you sitting in your office. It's not going to find you sitting in your classroom. It's not going to find you having analysis paralysis or overthinking. Start imperfectly, learn and adapt. And number three, leverage on your partnerships. And I'll also leave you with a bonus point that above all this, for it to actually work, for the 3 tips to work, what you need to do is work on yourself as an entrepreneur, because your venture will only go as far as you go as a person. If you grow to a certain limit, that's where the growth of your venture is going to find you. If you grow to, if you push yourself and grow further as an individual, the opportunity will meet you at the level of your preparedness. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to me, and happy to be part of this panel discussion and connecting much later. Thank you. Back to you, Eliud.
Wow, that was powerful. Thank you so much, Martina. That was super powerful and very educative as well. I'm sure for I think a good population in the audience is also made up of students who are actually aspiring entrepreneurs in this space, have definitely picked 1 or 2 things from your journey. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love the tip on starting perfectly. Actually, avoid analysis, because there's something called analysis paralysis that I've just learned today, which of course kills so many enterprises before they even begin. Thank you so much, Martina, for sharing that. And of course, like I said, we know that this is a space that even more young people can get into. And of course, we have institutions and different ecosystem enablers that are already doing this. And of course, like Martina mentioned, especially on the power of partnerships. Yes, there are partners and supporters that are willing to support you. And of course, one of those institutions is the Riara University. And of course, at this point, I would like to bring in Ms. Rehema. Of course, I know, first of all, Ms. Rehema, thank you so much for, just accepting to co-host this webinar with us, and of course, being with us through all this journey of planning and implementing this. And of course, I understand that the university really prides itself as an institution that nurtures innovators. So my question to you is, how does actually the university achieve this nurturing, and especially in the spaces of innovation, leadership, and entrepreneurship, where we know there's a lot of young people that are interested in these spaces? To you, Ms. Rehema.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Yes, fine.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. We can hear you.
Okay,
Loud and
thank you.
clear.
Thank you so much, Eliud, for your question. And I would like to begin by introducing Riara University and just recognizing our Vice Chancellor who could not make it for the meeting, and also to also recognize our Dean, Dr. Opati, who also could not make it for the meeting. But I thank you so much for, holding us through and keeping us updated on all the happenings of the meeting. And therefore, at this particular point, I would like to answer your question and, confidently say that we invest deliberately as Riara University in nurturing talent and equipping our students with skills, and also connecting them to ecosystems where their ideas can grow into enterprises. And I can honestly say that this is bearing fruit based on, a few the feedback that we have got from the field. Just like last year, we had one of our students who launched EcoGlass Kenya. I don't know whether you heard of it. It's a venture that is collecting and recycling glass into valuable product. And it just began, as a class project. It's amazing. And it later evolved into a sustainable business model that is actually proving that waste can indeed become wealth. We also had one of our own called Freestone also, who was awarded a prestigious award by the B Visioners Scholarship for his eco venture. He gained recognition, like you can see, far beyond the Kenyan borders. And, his journey was also quite unique, and, just affirms that with the right mentorship and exposure, then Riara University can, as a student in Riara University, you can go ahead and compete and also just succeed on a global stage. And also, as the institution, we do walk the talk. To be honest, we have our Konza campus, and we have early in the year, we had a tree planting initiative where we planted over 300 trees, just demonstrating our own commitment also to restoration and conservation and also sustainability. So it just shows that, really innovation can thrive even beyond the silos. And that is why we as Riara University are very, very passionate about just fostering these cross-sectional conversations that just bring in, the academia, the policy makers, the funders, and just the entrepreneurs together. And because we believe that it's really essential to have these partnerships, because with these partnerships, then you're able to, scale what works. And I'll finish off by just thanking you for, being able to co-host this webinar with also the G20 Global Land Initiative. And definitely we do reaffirm our role as a platform for the dialogue and also collaboration of this event. So we can all attest and say that restoration is not just an environmental agenda, it's also a business agenda. And it's about, being able to create these jobs, being able to go ahead and open the markets, and just build resilience for our communities. So it is, a biggest call for us young people just to go ahead, try and be bold, continue being creative and ambitious, because it's only by doing this that we are going to be able to lead this transformation. So thank you so much, Eliud. Hope we are enjoying the conversation so far. Thank you.
For sure, for sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Rehema. So far, so great. And I think it's really lovely to hear some of the success stories from the work the institution is doing. Clearly points to the fact that investing in young people actually pays off. And those are definitely fruits that even the rest of the society will reap from. I think I like the statement you said that actually investing in young people bears fruits, because I think most organizations are struggling to see, is there a need to making it look like it's almost a question to ask, like, should we invest in young people or not? But I think from the three speakers that have spoken so far, it's a no-brainer that yes, investing in young people does help. And of course, to the young people, then clearly there are opportunities in some of these unique spaces like land restoration. So thank you so much, Ms. Rehema, for reminding us that. Now, of course, we know that it's not just the academic institutions that are supporting youth innovators or young innovators. We also have accelerators and business support organizations that are also playing a critical role in supporting, of course, young people that want to build enterprises like Chemolex. And of course, then my question to you, Rogers, Mr. Rogers, is, we often hear this a lot of, young people asking for support. And I think this is in all spaces, even just beyond restoration, that there's this feel that there's not enough support. Of course, from the call so far, I feel like this may not be true. However, we hear this a lot. Maybe my question to you is, help us, first of all, demystify what the path to support looks like, and probably clarify what support mechanisms exist, and probably how can the youth align themselves with this support. Rogers.
Thank you, Eliud. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Rogers Jefferson Wekesa. I am a seasoned business advisor at the Kenya Climate Innovation Center. So this is where we stoutly turn bold ideas into investable businesses that heal the planet and create jobs. So the Kenya Climate Innovation Center is a leading catalyst, of course, for climate smart entrepreneurship in Africa. And currently, just around May, we launched our 4.0 strategy, which will seek to provide integrated climate entrepreneurship ecosystem support. This will include incubation, acceleration, capacity building, and innovative financing. Of course, to Kenyan ventures and entrepreneurs, developing solutions across 5 thematic areas that KCIC focuses to support, and that is agribusiness, renewable energy, and efficient use of energy. We have water management, waste management, and then, of course, commercial forestry. So our mission is to empower the private sector and deliver innovative, locally relevant climate technologies that drive economic prosperity and build resilient communities. So what would make restoration ventures truly ready for acceleration and investment? For us, we are looking at this as a challenge, and this challenge offers an opportunity. So the challenge is actually an opportunity for us. So I think first I want to reframe the issue. Kenya has earlier been mentioned by Fabiola, I think, and Eliud in your opening remarks. The Kenya's greatest untapped resource isn't just our land, but our youth, because generally over 30% of our land is degraded. So that is not just an environmental crisis. For me, this is a massive business opportunity that is waiting for innovators like ourselves. The young Kenyans that we see around, which is a huge ballooning population, is actually ready, and they understand this, that they are ready. So they don't see a degraded landscape and think of it as a problem, but they see it and think of it as one customer. It is worth forging supply chain, and it's also a ready market. So from the KCIC perspective, what makes a venture ready? There are three things I would want to focus on. One is if this venture offers a solution that heals and earns. What do I mean? It is not just enough to plant trees. It is not enough for your business model to make revenue, but it also requires that your business should perhaps restore the soil health, clean water, or robust biodiversity. So we look for a clear value proposition for both the planet and the customer. Number two, we're looking at a venture that has the right mindset. So this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Restoration takes time. So we look for founders who are resilient, who are resourceful, and actually ready for the long haul, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you really have to brace yourself for the long run. And number three, we look for a team that knows its gaps. We've listened to Chemolex, and you realize that she really knows the gaps within her business. She offers a solution that heals and earns, and she has the right mindset. So no one knows everything. The best founders know that they are good and that they aren't afraid to ask for help about what they don't know. And they seek this help from across the divide from all the sectors. So KCIC is impact oriented. I would say that as an organization, we are a proof of concept. Our strategic data-driven approach has actually yielded significant results for the Kenyan economy and our environment. Just in brief, our track record proves that this indeed works. We have supported over 3,500 businesses so far since inception when we started in 2012. Over a decade, we have actually supported 3,500 businesses, with the majority starting at ideation. These businesses have gone on to create over 10,000 jobs and generated over 50 million US dollars in revenue. And we have mitigated over 500,000 tons of CO2. So this isn't theoretical, it is actually viable, and it is an investable sector. I would want to talk briefly about our integrated climate entrepreneurship ecosystem approach, the model that we just launched. The model would actually the integrated climate entrepreneurship ecosystem model is we kind of walking away from what we were initially, because after having been in this for over 10 years, for over a decade, then definitely there are lessons learned and there are ways we are getting better and better by the day. So who are we to an investor to a startup or a youth-led restoration who would want to invest with us? I would say we are a strategic partner. And we are a strategic partner who comes on board with a tailored toolbox. One, this approach offers innovative finance and expert technical support. So we are bridging the capital and the expertise gap. We provide grants and patient capital, which helps in bridging the dangerous, popularly known valley of death for startups. You are all aware that generally, whenever there are startups, they face the risk of lacking capital, and that is what is popularly described as the valley of death. When they go through this, they are bound to fail just at the starting point. So we provide this, and at the same time, we are offering master classes. We are offering tailored trainings and mentorships in everything that aligns with the long-term horizon of this restoration journey. The next thing that we also offer is market systems and enabling environment. We generally create pathways to market and advocate for supportive policies. We don't just build businesses or stop at product development. We help create demand. We connect ventures to off-takers. We forge supply chains and make available lucrative markets for our entrepreneurs. And we also advocate for policies that allow these ventures to thrive. The fourth thing is that this model seeks to provide community entrepreneurial engagement. So we ensure that solutions are grounded in local needs. We ensure that solutions are locally led and they build lasting community resilience. And finally, as an organization, we seek to develop and improve our capacity. We strengthen our own institution to better serve this ecosystem and be a better partner. So in short, we are an ecosystem catalyst, and we de-risk restoration entrepreneurship so that young innovators can really focus on growth and impact. So our role today is generally, we are actually your strategic connector. We are your connective tissue. My message to the young innovators watching today, I'm glad that you joined this conversation. My message to you is that we do not have to do this alone. You do not have to do this alone. Your job is to hone your idea and master your hustle. Our job is to provide the ecosystem that turns your innovation into impact. So we are the connective tissue. And how are we this? For institutions such as Riara University, we are the commercialization pathway for research. And together, if we run together, we will be able to turn the groundbreaking research into viable businesses. So Riara University for us, such as we are based at the Strathmore University, Riara University for us and such institutions are actually critical for us in terms of research for building viable businesses. To youth and entrepreneurs who are logged in, we are your one-stop shop for capital, skill development, network for scaling, and therefore we are asking you, we are beseeching you to bring us your bold ideas. So come in confidence, give us your bold ideas. To investors and donors, we are a pipeline of vetted high impact and de-risked ventures. So I would ask the investors and donors to, quite frankly, deploy their capital with confidence. And lastly, to global partners such as the G20 Global Land Initiative, we are I would say we are your on-the-ground implementation engine. So we translate the vision, the global vision, into local impact. Yeah, so our call to action will be, we request that the restoration economy is open to business. At KCIC, our entire model is built to de-risk restoration entrepreneurship. So the land degradation is not our destiny, but our catalyst for innovation. Because at KCIC, we are catalyzing climate entrepreneurship across Africa. I therefore want to invite everybody to come and build the future with us. I think that is it. I want to
Yes.
stop at that, and thank you, Eliud. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers. And that's a very powerful call to action to the different stakeholders involved. It's true they all have a role to play, and I specifically like the call to action to the young innovators themselves. They keep saying they feel lonely as they do this. Clearly, they have no reason to feel lonely anymore. Institutions like KCIC actually treating you as partners. I liked that term used, that we are strategic partners with innovators. We are not just sort of helping or supporting you and sort of be like a beneficiary relationship, but it's like you are a strategic partner. So feel like a partner, bring value, and of course, do good for the planet, but also make money. That's such a powerful message. Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers. Of course, then last but not least, we always have to remember that there is what we call the policy environment, the regulatory environment that we always have to work in. And of course, I would like to bring in Ms. Mercy Kimalat, who from, of course, ASEC. So I know from, and I probably have mentioned this earlier, I've spent a good amount of time working with young people. And of course, I know that one thing that they will always complain about is the lack of sort of a solid legal environment or policy environment that supports their enterprises. Probably if you speak to Martina, she'll tell you the same. And of course, you'll hear them talk of this massive mismatch between what they are building and of course the existing regulations. So to you, Ms. Mercy, like, please highlight to us just some of those policy and infrastructure sort of needs that we all, of course, in this ecosystem need to be aware of that help sort of make these youth-led restoration ventures thrive beyond their pilots. Because as Rogers mentioned, there's that valley that we always have to make sure that innovators are able to go beyond. So how can we make sure that the policies we put forward actually support this thriving beyond that valley? Yes, Madam Mercy.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. So my name is Mercy Kimalat. I'm the CEO for ASEC, which is the Association of Startup and SME Enablers of Kenya. So we're a membership organization that brings together all what we call entrepreneur support organizations that include incubators, accelerators, venture builders. We have investors. We also have university innovation hubs. So happy to have also Riara joining part of the network. And also different corporate innovation centers. So together with the cumulative network of these different organizations, we actually support all the startups and SMEs across different sectors to actually thrive by having a sustainable business model, but at the same time having a very consolidated community where these entrepreneurs can actually thrive through our membership. So we have more than 210 innovation hubs across the country that are really working with entrepreneurs, cutting across different sectors. So we have agriculture, renewable energy. We also have manufacturing, we also have those in the hardware space, as well as supporting entrepreneurs come up with hardware prototypes. We also have university hubs and many others across the country. And so our mandate really as ASEC is across 4 pillars. So the first one is on policy and advocacy, as you mentioned. And the key thing here is to see how we can partner with different organizations to actually champion for an enabling environment. The second thing that we do as ASEC is collaboration. So how do we infuse diverse ecosystems to actually work together? You can have a conversation about youth restoration agenda, but if you don't bring in the investors, you don't bring in the academia, you don't bring in the government and many other stakeholders, then there's always a missing piece. And you find that one stakeholder ends up doing more work just to build the ecosystem. Whereas if you have an ecosystem where we clearly understand the role of every stakeholder, it becomes easier to coordinate and we can actually achieve more impact that is needed. The third thing that we do as ASEC is on internationalization. So we've been very intentional in positioning Kenya as a gateway for investment and also for top talent to be able to support startups and also the entrepreneur support organizations with key resources, equipment, and also expertise to really help with refining the product that can actually meet international standards, or even supporting some of our members to scale into other Pan-African countries and also globally, so as to be able to expand our reach and also outlook. A key program that we introduced this year was the Global Entrepreneur Support Standards, where we're also benchmarking with South Africa to see how we can benchmark and also leverage some of the investment networks that are based there. At the same time, also leveraging the innovation around fintech that Kenya is really strong and good at as well. The final pillar that we do as ASEC is on capacity building, where we continuously develop the capability of our trainers, coaches, and mentors in different areas so that they are actually up to date with what is happening at a global level, but also addressing the local grassroots needs that keep emerging. And so, aligned to the discussion for today and why even for ASEC it's important is because if you look at what's happening at a global level, remember we're in a global village. So whatever happens in Europe, America, whatever it is in the world, it also affects the local ecosystem right here in Kenya. So if you look at the population as of now, they're facing huge challenges in terms of water scarcity, and this actually could reach 75% of the population by 2050, making drought an urgent point of discussion at different forums. And also, if you know the COP that's happening this year, it's taking place in November, those are some of the key discussions that will keep coming up. And that means that we have now going to widen the marginalized gap, whereby you will have more vulnerable communities being exposed to drought and climate change effects. And that really hinders the growth of the community in terms of sustainable livelihoods, but even also the national economic agenda, because we do not have any productive use coming out of the land. And also, if you look at the under the African Forest Landscape Restoration Initiative 100, the Kenyan government actually did make a restoration commitment of 5.1 million hectares to restore that, and also to achieve 10% tree cover on the farms. And that really emphasizes the mission and vision for ASEC, which is around land-based entrepreneurship, whereby for us as ASEC, we really want to position Kenya's youth and startup ecosystem as a key agent in reversing land degradation and building climate green economies. So some of the key strategic priorities under this is one, we've been able to empower innovation hubs and also the entrepreneur support organizations to redesign some of their programs, their solutions, with a focus on land restoration and also biodiversity. For this, we've been able to conduct train-the-trainer programs, not only within Nairobi, but also across 6 regions in Kenya, and actually providing templates and tools for some of these coaches to learn. If you look at right now, also in terms of the blue economy, it has now taken shape, and we're now getting more investments into that sector. But it was really more of making more, quote unquote, more noise about that sector to actually attract the kind of funding, support, and also technical expertise to drive that sector. The second thing that also we've been doing is on research and landscape analysis. We really believe in having data before making a decision so that we're able to maximize whatever resource we have to the maximum use to give impact to the local community. And so we managed to conduct a landscape and research analysis across different regional blocks just to help understand what are the barriers, the challenges, and what actually are the county so in Kenya we have the county governments, we have 47 of them. So every county government has its own competitive advantage. Every county government has its own we call it the County Integrated Development Plan, where they've actually outlined the key focus areas that the county government will be focusing on. So we've been able to do a deep dive for most of them, and actually being able to pick out the key areas that align around innovation and entrepreneurship. And so one thing that we're doing around that is to see how we can run a GovTech challenge, whereby we've actually asked the public sector to share with us challenges, and then inviting entrepreneurs through our network of ESOs to now provide the technical support in regards to solving that challenge. At the same time, they're receiving constant mentorship and coaching as they develop that along. And that has really led to a lot of uptake in terms of understanding the startup ecosystem and how government's role really is critical in shaping that. The other thing that we do is also on data-driven policy engagement, and we do this both at the regional level and also at the county and national level to be able to champion for enabling policies and climate dialogues. A key example is the Africa Climate Summit that also took place last week in Ethiopia. We also were hosting the Regional Summit for East Africa, and also aligned to this is that we've partnered with the East Africa community and looking at things around the common market. So for example, if you have a product like for Chemolex, they have a product here, how do they scale effectively across the 8 other or the 7 other countries within East Africa community? So those are some of the trade protocols that we're trying to now train our coaches and mentors who now cascade that down to the entrepreneurs who can actually factor that into their own business model when they're thinking of scalability. The other key thing is on facilitation of markets. So looking at how we can leverage the African continent of free trade, where the government has done a lot in terms of creating and connecting different markets to actually work together to realize that. And then, of course, looking at how to catalyze funding for the decade vision as well. So maybe for me, I can just finish with a call to action, is really to look at how we can think of all the different stakeholders that really contribute. So one for sure is ensure you're constantly being updated on the policy forums that we're running. Currently, we have around 17 that we've done so far in the year, and that has really helped us to capture data from the grassroots level, and most of them are being driven by the youth, whether it's at the university level or at the local community level. So we need to collaborate and to build a future that's both robust. That means we need to scale infrastructure and local investment. We also need to look at inclusivity. So we have a gender policy framework. How do we operationalize that? And then also looking at diversity. So how can we build the capacity for all these different entrepreneur support organizations to continue working closely with all these youth enterprises to really help and scale their innovations? Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I really love the holistic approach to support that you're putting forward at ASEC. And of course, like you said, being a membership organization, then every other stakeholder can also find a way of being part of this. So thank you so much for that, Madam Mercy. And yes, I know there's a lot of connection happening in the chat. I've been seeing that, people connecting, and of course, that's great to see. I also know that when people, participants registered, they actually provided a number of questions. But the good news is we actually took time to go through all that and integrate that in the questions that I was asking the panelists. So for that reason, I know most of the questions that you had at the beginning have been answered as we go, as we've been going along with the conversation. But I don't know if there was any question that came up that was super unique that maybe the panelists did get the chance to respond to. I don't know if Fabiola, you noticed any. I saw one from Costin Oyo, I think was talking about the fact that there's a lot of funding going to tech businesses, and anyone who sprinkles AI into anything, they get funding, but anyone who mentions land restoration and the rest may not get funding as much. But I know Rogers clearly mentioned that yes, there is actually opportunities to fund land restoration. You just have to choose who you talk to. Of course, not everyone supports everything. So being and even Mercy talked about being able to introduce you to the right people who are willing to actually support you, and not thinking that anyone can just jump onto your innovation. So finding the right kind of stakeholders also helps. But I don't know if Fabiola, there was anything else you wanted to highlight?
Thank you, Elliot. I mean, I know we are like tight with time, but just to add to your answer, as I have mentioned before, AI is not a counterpart of land restoration. You can use AI for restore land. So there is the interesting part is to find the connection, how to route it to land restoration. So the good thing is that because of land is connected to everything, so therefore you can make those connections easily. And on my end, I think that's it. And I want to, on behalf of the G20, thank you for hosting this webinar on our behalf. And thank you to Riara University. Thank you to everyone who has joined. And I think you have you can find us on LinkedIn to all of us here. And also I have dropped there the link to the community that we have created specifically to keep the conversation and the activities and the action more than the conversation on behalf of the G20 with the stakeholders and the allies that we have found in restoration, such as KCI, Riara, Chemolex, and ASEC. And of course, our JEC community, which also we are part of through the JECO program. Thank you very much. And I think from my end, that's it, Elio, back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, my amazing panelists and the great audience for the great engagement, the insights shared. It's true we didn't have any more time for this conversation because I know it's on Monday morning, so people have to go to do other things. But the good news, like Fabiola has said, is there's actually a group dedicated for these conversations, and we'll keep having more in future. So at this point, allow me to close the webinar at this point, and of course, wish you a great rest of your day.